Greetings and blessings, and welcome to another episode of Shauna-Kay's Motivational Breeze with me, Shauna-Kay Calder. You are tuned in for another powerful episode. We do this because I need it, you need it, we all need it. That good energy that will help you to change your mind about your limitation. Some strong positive conversation that will shift your lens from lack to abundance. Here with me today, we have Miss Nikeo Kobo. And today we're talking about the power of belief. Miss Nikeo, it's a pleasure having you here with me today. Thank you for accepting this invitation. I'll give you this opportunity to introduce yourself to my wonderful listeners.
Oh, thank you so much, Shauna-Kay,
You're
for
welcome.
the invite and the program. I really appreciate it. This is a blessing. And I love being able to talk about positive things. So Shauna-Kay's motivational breeze. This is something that it's just something that I believe in, like motivating other people and stuff. And so I thank you for that opportunity.
You're
So a
welcome.
little bit about myself. You've already said that I'm Nikeo Kobo. You'll actually hear my name pronounced two different ways. So in the U.S. where I grew up, like everyone says Nikeo. And then now that I've lived here in the Middle East, the long A sound is not actually like one of like the Arabic sounds here. And so most people actually here pronounce it Nikeo,
Right.
which I also like, I hear it both ways and I accept it both ways. And what's amazing is my name, it is derived from the Greek word Nikeo,
Ah,
Nikao, without the Y. And it means the overcomer or the conqueror.
wow.
And so even when they're saying it like within that way, I was like, oh yeah, they're like speaking life over me and the meaning of my name, which is really, really amazing to me. So a little bit about myself. I see myself as a daughter of the Most High God.
Amen.
I'm wonderfully made.
Amen.
I'm unique. I'm a creative individual. I'm like a visionary type person. And I do just love like living on purpose, living with vision and motivating other people. And that's a little bit about me and who I am.
Awesome. So happy to have you. As we talk about the power of belief, what is your definition of belief? How do you see belief?
Hmm. So the way that I see belief, right? So again, like I said, I see myself as like a daughter of the Most High God, right? So I can't see God though. And so when I look at belief, I don't look at it so much as like, oh, okay, like this is a Muslim thing, or this is a Buddhist thing, or this is a Christian thing, or this is a agnostic thing, or whatever that case may be. But I say that belief is the connection between the seen, what I'm experiencing right now here in this world,
Yes.
and the unseen, right? And how you get from point A to point B. And so even if I look at something like, say, the Wright brothers, long before they saw people flying in airplanes, taking them from one place to another, they had to have something in the unseen world going on that said, even though we haven't seen this before,
Yes.
even though it hasn't been done before, something within me says that I can connect, that there's this image in my mind. It's not here yet, but I can bring this to the real world.
Yes.
And so I see belief as the connection between what we're experiencing right now and what we can see and what we don't see, but what we're hoping for. So that's how I see belief.
Awesome definition. And why is it belief so powerful? What makes belief so powerful? The word itself so powerful to you?
I think that it's the power of possibility. It's the power of possibility, the power of this isn't here yet. I can't see it yet. I can't feel it yet. I can't taste it yet. It doesn't even look like it might even come,
Yes.
right? But it's the power of making what's impossible, what doesn't make sense, what isn't here. It's the power of making it possible. It
Mhm.
says, I think that this can happen. Doesn't make sense. I can't see it. I can't feel it, but that's what belief is. It's the power of possibility.
The power of possibility. And where does one get their beliefs from?
Oh, that's a really good question. Where does someone get their beliefs from?
Yes.
So I would say that belief. So again, it's something that you can't see, right? And because it's something that you can't see, belief starts from the time that you are first really punched out of, like, punched into this world and you're coming from your mother's womb. And
Yes.
even as a baby, like you're not familiar with this world that you're in right now. So you come out crying and you're hoping that there's going to be some type of comfort there for you. And
Yes.
then when you're feeling hungry, you're hoping that there's something that's going to nourish this thing. And you don't even know what hunger is yet. You don't know, but there's something within you. It's like this, I call it faith, right? And again, when I'm talking about faith, I'm not talking about a specific type of religion, but
Mhm.
it's just being sure of what you hope for, even though you don't see it, even
Yes.
though you're not familiar with it. And so your belief, it comes from the faith and trusting in what you don't see. Even right now, as me and you are talking to one another, like over the internet. So we just trusted that, oh, we're going to turn on this computer and we're going to log into this application and she can see me and she can hear me and we can communicate. And that was a level of faith right there, believing in what was unseen. Where does it come from? And so it's just the belief in what you don't see. And let me tell you where it doesn't come from as well, because I think that that's also important.
Yes.
About where faith doesn't come from. Faith doesn't come from, I have all the answers. It doesn't come from, I have all the information, all the details, and I understand why this works. That's not where belief comes from. That's not where faith comes from. Because if it did, in the same way that you and I are talking over the internet, I have no idea how the internet works. How are you seeing my face right now? How are you hearing my voice from where you are? How are your viewers and listeners? Like, I'm right here in Dubai right now, but if you have someone who's listening in the United States or in Australia or in Canada or in Kenya or wherever it is they may be, right? Even in space, if someone's listening to this in space, I don't understand how that works. How did they hear this later? How did all this get put back together that you can see me? I don't understand it. But just because I don't understand it, I don't have all the details from it. I can't give you scientific information and all the dots, the dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but it still works. And that's where belief comes from. It just comes from understanding, like, it's a belief. It's a belief in what you cannot see and what you don't understand, but it works. That's where it comes from.
Wonderful. I love the definition you gave of how you and I are connected over the internet, and we just came on the computer and believed that it would work, and it's working. Yeah, it's working. That's wonderful. What are the effects of a change environment on our beliefs?
Okay. So it's interesting that you talk about a change in environment right now, because we are going through the season of COVID-19 all over the world. Yes. And so there's been a major change in people's environments. And so before I talk about about what the effects of a change environment are, I actually want to share a little story with you that kind of illustrates it, right? So there's a woman, she's an American woman, and her name is Florence Chadwick. So you can look her up later if you want. Chadwick, Chadwick. Okay?
Yeah.
So Florence Chadwick, back in the 1950s, I think it was like 1951 or 1952, she wanted to swim from the coast of California to the Catalina Islands. And so this is roughly a 26-mile journey. So mind you, I have an American mindset. So I say 26 miles, but for those of us who also use the metric system, which is most of the rest of the world, that's roughly 42 kilometers, right? So this is like a serious trip that she's trying to undergo and swim in. And so she goes to make this trip, and there is like a boat of people who are there to like guide her and like cheer her, and also like look out for like any sharks. So already, like, I wouldn't have been in that water like when somebody said, oh, we might have to save you from the sharks. You're gonna travel 26 miles. But she set out on this belief that she could swim 26 miles from the coast of California to the Catalina Islands. But get this heavy fog after she had been swimming for 15 hours. 15 hours of swimming. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Swimming. Yeah. So she's been swimming for 15 hours. She hasn't reached yet. And this thick fog set in. And when the fog set in, she couldn't see the coast anymore. And so when she couldn't see the coast anymore, she kept swimming a little bit longer. I think they said that she swam about an hour longer. So a total of like 16 hours. And when she got to that point, even though the people in the boat were cheering around, like, keep going, it was just like the physical strain, the emotional strain, the mental strain that she couldn't see the coast anymore. She asked for them to pull her back into the boat. So she got into the boat. She ends up discovering when she gets into the boat that she was less than half a mile from the coast. And not only that, so again, for my listeners who use the metric system, like less than half a mile, it's about 0.8 of a kilometer from the coast. And so what she said when they interviewed her, she was like, if only I could have seen the coast, I know that I could have made it. I really think, and I really know, and I think that I could have made it to the coast there if I would have been able to see it. So she ends up going back, does the trip again,
Mm-hmm.
right? And she makes it the next time that she does it. And the same fog, the exact same fog had set in again when she did it the first time, but she swam the 26 miles. And then not only did she swim at the 26 miles that time, she went on to do it 2 more times after that and has set a record for it. And so when you ask me about what are the effects of
Yes.
a change of environment
Mm-hmm.
on our belief, so all of us have different fog in life, right?
Yes.
So right now, like we're thinking about COVID-19. And so maybe that's giving you a fog of worry or depression
Mm-hmm.
because you're at home and you're isolated away from your friends, away from your family, and you don't know when it's going to end, right? So that can be a fog. Maybe it's also a fog of like unemployment, like
Mm-hmm.
either you're concerned about losing your job. Everyone's talking about the economy, the economy, the
Yeah.
economy,
Mm-hmm.
with the economy, or maybe you have lost your job. Like I do know of like different people who have lost their job during this time as well, and that's a fog in life.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Maybe it's a health issue. Maybe you yourself are sick, maybe with COVID-19, maybe someone you know, maybe you're not sick, but you're worried about being sick. Maybe you have a chronic illness. And so you're like, oh, I'm concerned. I don't want to go anywhere because they told me that I'm high risk because I have a
Mm-hmm.
chronic illness or I'm older in age. So maybe it's a health issue. That could be a fog in your life too.
Mm-hmm.
Could also be like a natural disaster. So even in the midst of like coronavirus, there have been things like earthquakes. And so it's not just like one thing that impacts people. There can still be other situations and challenges that are coming before us. Maybe you also have a fog of a strained relationship, right? You're having a hard time living with the people that you are with or being away from the person that you love, and that's really creating a strain on your relationships. That could be a fog. Can also be a fog of like foreclosure. It could be a fog of repossession, like if you're having trouble paying your bills. Those are all like real fogs. And even like the fog of the loss of a loved one. There have been a lot of lives lost during
Yeah.
COVID-19 in this season right now. But when I think back, when you talk about the effects of change on the environment and our beliefs, and so we, before COVID-19, we
Yeah.
had this vision of like, this is what my career is going to be like,
Mm-hmm.
or this is what my feelings are going to be like, or this is what my health is going to be like. I'm going to get in shape and I'm going to work out. This
Yes.
is what my relationships are going to be like, or this is what I'm going to do with my finances. But now this fog is set in, and you're in this state of, I want to be pulled out of the boat. Like, I need people to pull me out of this boat right now, because you can't see the coast anymore.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that the coast isn't there. And so, my encouragement to you, what I would really say to you, really when I think about Miss Florence and her journey, that when she realized she was so close, like to go a little bit further and then go back again and try that journey again. Like, don't give up faith and hope just because this fog is set in. The fog doesn't stay there forever. And then even when you think about it, there wasn't fog the whole journey of her
Mm-hmm.
swim.
Mm-hmm.
It came in at a certain season and then it went away. And so fogs can come to distract us from whatever our belief is, whatever that goal is that's in front of us. But I would encourage you, like, don't give up during this season just because the fog is set in. Don't give up prematurely. Don't give up too early. Don't be like that first situation where you got pulled out like 8/10 of a kilometer away from the coast just because you couldn't see the coast because of the fog. But absolutely, fog can have a huge impact and discourage us. That's how she felt. She felt discouraged because her body was already weak from swimming for those 15 hours. It's already just like a physical strain. And then again, there's got to be some type of a mental strain there that you have people who are watching out for sharks for you. But she was able to press past all that. And it was when she lost her belief. That was when. It's only when that fog set in. That was when she finally gave up despite all the other obstacles. So I would say don't let this fog of COVID-19 cloud your belief. Don't let it cloud your belief. Keep moving forward.
This spoke volume to me just now. Don't give up prematurely, because oftentimes that's what many of us do. We believe and then we get tired, we get frustrated, and then we just throw in the towel. And our breakthrough
Mm-hmm.
is right there when we least expect it to be. So you hear it, my listeners, do not give up
Mm-hmm.
prematurely. Continue. Continue on your journey. Believe that you can and you will. Now, my next question is, many philosophers, they deem the key to achieving our goals as being focused, being persistent, being hardworking, being resilient. But what really is it? Can one have all of these key without believing?
Okay. So could one have all of these things without believing? I think you absolutely have to have belief first,
Mm-hmm.
because the first thing that I would say is you have to set a goal. You
Yes.
have to set an achievement. And so if you don't first have a vision for what that is, you haven't set something, going to be really hard to reach it, right? I think it was maybe Benjamin Franklin said something like, if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail.
Yeah.
And so you absolutely have to set something first, have something in mind. Even again, if I go back to the example of a baby, right? So all of us, when we were first born, first our mothers, our fathers, our caretakers, they carried us around because we couldn't walk on our own first, right? But then when we got in our mind that I don't want to keep staying in the same spot, what do babies start doing? They start rolling over on their side, they start scooting, and then they start crawling. And then there comes a point as well that they're like, I don't see anybody else crawling. I think I can do what they do, and I'm gonna try walking now. Like, nobody's had to put in your ear like, hey, this is what you're gonna do. They see it and they want to try it on their own, they want to emulate it. But again, they had to start with something in here, even before anybody has taught them what a goal is, right? They've had a mindset, a vision in their mind there, a belief that this is something that I can do. And so from there, if I would say, what is the key to like achieving that goal? Something my mom always tells me is like, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. And so again, you think about that baby, they fall down. You don't say, oh, baby, you done fell down. You just never going to walk. You just might as well keep crawling. No, they get back up and they keep trying. You keep moving forward. When you're first learning how to play a musical instrument, you hit the wrong key or you blow a sour note, nobody says to you, you're horrible, put that instrument away. Like, no, don't ever do that again. No, you keep moving forward.
Yes.
But again, you have to have that vision first. If you don't have the vision that you're going to be an amazing pianist or an amazing basketball player or an amazing writer or whatever the case may be, if you don't first have that in mind, you haven't set a goal that this is what I want to do, then yeah, you have no reason to keep on going because you're not aiming for anything. But if you're aiming for something, then all you got to do is keep moving forward. But you got to have the belief of it first. You got to have that first, have that vision set.
I do believe so as well. How can we as a people change our ability about the way we think and the way how we perform?
Okay. How can you change? So when I think about like the process of change, I think about this kind of like whatever you put in is what you get out. And so I really think about like what are you putting into your world? Because whatever you're putting into the world, that's what you're going to get out of your world. What types of things are you reading? Are they things that are changing your mindset? Are they things that are helping you be positive and uplifting, like motivational, like your motivational breeze? Are they things that are helping you become a believer? Are they other people who inspire you, who also who they have what you want, right? So what are you reading? Are you reading those types of things? Are you reading about things that don't really help move you towards that? What are you watching? So the same type of question. What do you watch on television? What do you watch when you're on YouTube? What do you watch when you go to the movies? And I'm not saying don't enjoy like, a comedy or your favorite, your favorite Broadway performance or anything. I'm not saying this. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, you always have to be focused on this particular thing. But what I'm saying is, are you watching things that are building you up, that are helping build your belief, that are helping build your positivity? Are you watching things that are discouraging you? Are you watching things that are making you more worried, that are making you more depressed, that are bringing in those fogs, right? So what are you watching? You should think about what that is. Who are you hanging out with? Who do you surround yourself with? Who is your circle? There's a saying, it says, birds of a feather flock together. And so when you think about that, are you associating yourself with people who are going somewhere, or are you like the smartest person there? Are you the one who always has to bring everybody else up? Are they influencing you to do negative things? So again, like what are you surrounding yourself with in your environment? And the last thing that I would think of are like, what are your hobbies? There's someone who I love listening to, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, right? And he tells this story. It's the funniest thing. Like, I love when he tells this story, but he tells the story about how he first got into the golf. And the way he first got into golf is, he said his first experience with golf, he's watching a comedy program. And so he was watching Bill Cosby. And he said Bill Cosby was talking about, golf is a stupid game. Golf is a stupid game. All it is a bunch of grown men running around with a little stick trying to hit a ball with a hole. It's a stupid game. And he said he remembered watching this comedy show and just cracking up laughing. It's the funniest thing. And so this is where his whole golf philosophy comes from. But if you fast forward some years later, he has a friend of his who was going out golfing one day. He's like, hey, Miles, what are you doing? You want to come golf with me? He's like, I'm not doing anything else. But he said it clicked in his mind. The same thing Bill Cosby had said years before on his comedy show, all his stupid games. So he tries to crack this joke. And his friend was like, you either want to come or you don't want to come. He's like, I'm not doing anything. I'll go. I was just joking. So he goes. Not only does he fall in love with golf, golf ended up being the place when he was out golfing and playing with people. This was the place that really helped finance a lot of his ministry and his practices. And he's like, wow. He was like, your hobbies that you participate in, they should always be related to the things that are going to help further whatever your vision, whatever your dream, whatever your belief is. And so that's how we started golfing, because he realized that this was a network that he hadn't even tapped into before. And had he kept this mindset, what golf was about, built based off of a comedy program, he never would have stepped into that. And so that's how he started choosing what his hobbies were, because they brought him closer to what his vision and his dream was. And so it was amazing. And so, yeah, that's absolutely like, how can you change your ability to, how can you change your ability? It's changing by what you're putting in. What are you putting in? What are you reading? What are you watching? Who are you hanging out with? What are your hobbies? That's how you change.
Very, very important. And we all know that fear hinders our belief. Because if we're fearful, we will never, ever believe that anything is possible. But I do believe that as human beings, as an individual, we possess weapons that we can use to combat fear. What are some of these weapons you think that each and every one of us as an individual, for those of my listeners who are struggling to believe on one thing or another, what are some of those weapons that they possess that can help to combat fear?
Okay, so when we talk about fear, again, fear is one of those things we can't see fear. Like, I can't see fear in front of me right now, right? And so I'll paint a picture with physical things that we can see, with how you can combat things that you cannot see. Okay, so the first picture that I'm gonna paint for you is like when we get dressed, we usually put on a belt, right? Why do you put on a belt? It might be for a fashion accessory, but for most people, the reason that you're wearing a belt is your belt is you don't want to like expose yourself to the rest of the world. Like, hey everyone, I want you to see my undergarments. Like, you wouldn't want to do this. Like, that would be embarrassing. And so the first thing you would use to combat fear is to be truthful, right? So have like a belt of truth, right? Are you being honest and saying, you know what, I'm afraid of this and that's why I'm not doing that. So the first thing you need is just to be honest about it. Like, have a belt of truthfulness about the situation, right? About fear. So the second thing, again, like paint a picture, what we see, right? How do we fight like a weapon of fear, right? How do we fight fear? Like, what are the weapons? So the next thing I would say, if I paint a picture, if you think about society again today, police officers, they might wear like a bulletproof vest, right? Or soldiers, they wear like some type of protection, like on their chest here, like their breastplate, right? So the reason that they're wearing that there is like your heart. You've got to protect like your internal organs, like your heart, your lungs, those things, right? So the next thing I would say about combating fear and how do you combat fear, the next weapon that you need to have is you need to have like a protection, like your heart, okay? And just knowing like knowing the difference between what defines you and what defines someone else, because what might be right for somebody else might not be right for you. And you have to trust getting beyond that fear of like, oh, I don't want to disappoint this person or everybody else is doing it, right? But you really have to protect your heart. So that's the next weapon that I would say you need to have, like really it's more of a defensive weapon, right? The next thing that I would use you, what are your weapons to go against fear? So when we put on our shoes, most of us are going to put on 2 shoes, right? So I'll give you 2 different things here, right? So one is readiness, and the other shoe that you're going to put on the other foot is peace. Okay. Readiness is because part of the reason that you're afraid of something is you're not ready. So when runners are at like a race and they're at that starting line there and they blow the what is it, like little gun smoke, yeah? They blow it on your mark, get set, go, right? And so if you're not ready, like you've already like lost your race because you're not ready when it's time to start. So you're not ready when the opportunity comes. So I would say if you're not ready, whatever it is you're afraid of, get ready. If you're afraid to own like a big business one day, start reading books, start learning what does it mean to be an entrepreneur, get ready for it. If you're afraid of like being in like a really good relationship and stuff, start like building yourself or whatever. How can I be a better person? How can I attract other people? Get ready for it. Get ready to like be like a married person if you want to be married. If you're looking like I'm afraid of like to go apply for this job because what if I don't have the right qualifications? Well, get ready, do some research,
get ready,
prepare, get someone to help you with your interview, get ready. And that will give you a peace. And so that's why I said you have those two shoes. So you have your readiness and your peace. Because when you feel ready, then you're going to feel peaceful. You're not going to be scared anymore. No more fear. The last thing that I would say is for you to have like a shield when you go in there for your weapon, right? And you have to have that shield, like I said in the beginning, where I talked about faith. Like you would ask me, where do your beliefs come from? And I said, it becomes from your faith. Those things that you believe in that you don't see. So you got to have your faith, your belief. Like, okay, I'm afraid of this thing. And that's why you're scared. You're scared because you haven't seen it before. You're scared because you haven't experienced it before. You're scared because you don't know what's going to happen on the other end. But if you walk in belief, if you walk in believing that, all right, this is what's going to happen, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it doesn't line up, that's the next thing you need to have is you got to have that shield. Got to have a shield. Wow. So those are the different elements, the weapons that I think you need to fight for you.
Readiness and peace.
Yeah, readiness and peace, those shoes.
And how can we now deal with these things that are limiting our beliefs? We want to remove the limits of everything that hinders our belief, that hinders our success in life.
How can we remove the limits of those? How can we remove the limits? That's a good question. How can we remove the limits? There's a couple different ways that I would say, how can we remove the limits from the things that give us those beliefs? So one, I'm going to go back to when I said that you always have to have like that vision first. You always start here, right? So we're going to call this like your bold blueprint. You absolutely have to have your bold blueprint. So that's one of the ways that you're going to remove the limits there. There was an artist who I used to listen to when I was in college. Her name was Vivian Green. And she used to have this song, Superwoman. I would put it on a replay, my little CD player, replay, play it again, play it again, play it again. But she would say, why must I fit into your box? Why must I fit into your box? And so you don't fit in anybody's box. But you have to have a bold blueprint of what your box is, of what your area is. So that's the first thing I think that you need. The second thing I think that you need to do is to be effective. Okay, so if you are effective in whatever your blueprint is, like doing it with excellency, going out there and doing it, like how does it benefit other people? How does it benefit the world? How does it benefit you? Like if you're just doing stuff like, oh, check, I've done this today, check, but there's not any real effectiveness from it, and it's not something measurable, it's not something that's produced a positive result, then that's a hard way to combat that. Okay, so you got to be effective. The next thing that you would do, I would say, take those limits off, is I would say make room.
Yeah.
Make room. Don't set a glass ceiling. Don't say that like, oh, well, I've got to do this number. And then once I get this number, I can stop. Like, no, take the limits off. Make room for it. And like the more room you make for it, the more that you can do. That's how you can take them off. Trying to think what else. I would say have insights. I would say also like getting insights from other people, insights from like, hey, what do you think about this? Like get advice. I would say like getting advice is like really, really important. You don't want to stay like stuck in like just your own mind. Yeah, those are the different things I would say. And then faith. I'm going to keep on going back to faith.
Very important.
I'm always going to go back to that. So yeah, bold blueprint, effective, limits, insight, and faith.
And faith. Wonderful. And in the midst of this lockdown, many people are at home or within their confined space, and they're getting different ideas, they're setting their goals, they're thinking of new things, even their New Year's resolution. That has now been changed for many of us. How can we solidify our belief during this time? How can we do that?
How can we solidify your beliefs?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the first thing I'm going to say, especially because, like you said, things might be changing
Yes.
from, New Year's resolution and these other things.
Mm-hmm.
The absolute first thing that you're going to do if you want to solidify this is you have got to write down what your belief is. You've got to write it down. Have your belief, have your vision, write it down, make it plain. It's got to be written somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's typed, like if you're on digital age, you want to type it, whether it's written like in journal, whether it's like a vision board, like pictures, whatever the case may be. But put it somewhere like physical, again, in this realm. Like pull it from out of what's here in your belief and put it somewhere here in this realm. Because remember, I keep telling you there's this connection between the seen and the unseen world. So put it down on something that makes it real here in this realm first. So first thing, absolutely write it down. The next thing I would say is speak it. Speak it, speak it, speak it, speak it, speak it. Keep talking about it. So if you had a resolution that you said at the beginning of the year, like, oh, I'm going to, I don't know, travel to 15 different places, or whatever the case may be, but you wouldn't tell that to anybody else. You wouldn't speak it anywhere. So it's real easy when you're here in May and you're like, I haven't even researched the first place that I want to visit, right? And it's easy for you to just kind of let it go because you haven't told anybody else to like make it accountable to, right? So write it down, speak it. The next thing I would say is revisit it, because you're going to write it down and there are going to be things where you have to make adjustments, the fogs that come in life, right? You're going to have to make adjustments sometime, and that's okay. But you're not going to know what those adjustments are if you aren't going back to revisit whatever it is that you wrote down. So keep on revisiting whatever you wrote down. And then as you're revisiting it, like have an action plan. Don't just write it down like, oh, this is my goal, but what are you doing? So what's your next step? And what's the deadline for that next step? And then come back and revisit it. Do I need to change the deadline? Oh, did I check this off? Did I do that? Make those modifications as you need it. The next thing I would say is when you're ready to give up, because again, going back to like Florence Chadwick and that fog and the coast, and she had that supporting staff there, that sometimes you do need people to pull you out the water. Maybe there is a shark and you need to stop. That's okay. Maybe you're exhausted, or maybe you've just, you were like Florence and like, I just don't believe anymore. So I would say make sure, and this is why it's important to speak it too, because those people who you spoke it to, they're going to nurse you back to health. They're going to encourage you. They're going to be like, okay, we're going to get you back on your feet. And then they're going to hold you accountable to what you spoke. They're going to hold you accountable, be like, okay, now go back out there and run with that dream, that goal, that belief that you had before. And so, and I would say that at the end of the day, like when you go back out there, revisit it again, keep working it, keep revisiting it. And that's my biggest thing. I would always say, going back to point number one, write it down. Write it down and keep on looking back at it. And that would be the biggest thing for how you can solidify your belief.
Amen. I do agree with you. That is what I do. I know I
Yeah,
want
me
to
too.
be a motivational speaker. I have it written down. We can even have it stored in our cell phone. Each morning, each second of the day, you just take your phone out and you're just reading it to yourself. I can and I will. And it will happen. It will happen. Only if you believe it will happen. I never imagined myself doing this. I was very shy, didn't want to face the camera until I realized that I was the one who was limiting my belief. And immediately when I removed the cap off, I had people who was there to help and help take me out of the shallow waters. And here I am today. So it is possible. It is possible by revisiting our belief, as Miss Nikaya just said to us. Now, one of my listener gave me a very important question that I'm going to ask you. And she
Okay.
said, every time we remember our dreams, every time she remembers her dreams, she's removing dirt off it. But the moment something happens and she's placed in the situation where she lost that belief, then she's no longer able to get back on track. Now she was wondering, is that a case that she's been fearful, or a case that she's not motivated enough, or she have just lost her belief? Because there are moments when she just get so excited, yes, I'm gonna do this. But the moment something happens, it pulls her away from that intended goal, and then she just loses focus.
Mm, That's a beautiful question.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's that she's unmotivated. It doesn't even necessarily has to be fear. It doesn't mean that she's given up her belief, but it's beautiful. It's so beautiful that she used the illustration of dirt, and then the
Yes.
dirt keeps on piling, right? And I'll tell you why that's beautiful. So there's the mythical bird. It's called a phoenix.
Yes.
And the phoenix, the legend of the phoenix says that the phoenix like rises from its own ashes, right? So there's this ash, this pile of dirt, yeah, but it rises into this beautiful, like mythological, like creature, like beyond, like you can't even fathom, like taking some ashes and building it into this amazing, like creature that's on fire.
Mhm.
And so when I think about that, the different dirt that's in her life, the
Yeah.
different ashes that are within her life, they're not there to destroy her dream. They're not there for her to be fearful, but they're all part of like what's building her
Mm.
and transforming her into that phoenix. And it's going to be beyond her wildest imagination. Like I truly believe that everything that happens in our life, it is for the purpose of my good. They are plans to prosper us and
Mhm.
not to harm us. Even though it doesn't feel good at the moment, even though it's like I can't make sense of what's happening right now, even though we feel that we're like hard pressed on like every side and like I don't know like what this pressure, what this is doing to me. You
Mhm.
gotta remember that pressure makes diamonds, right?
Yes,
Lots and lots and
they
lots and lots and lots of
do.
pressure forms a diamond. And so this dirt that's being piled on top of her dream, she keeps having the dream, and then there's this dirt, there's this challenge. You just might be in a situation and season right now where it's a learning season and you can't see it right now. But when that transformation happens, you'll finally realize what all that dirt was building you into.
Mhm.
And it's something that's going to be amazing. But you just got to believe. You have to believe, even though this pile of ash doesn't look like anything. It looks like a pile of dirt, a pile of ashes,
Yeah.
but it's being transformed into something amazing. And you just have to believe that. You got to believe it.
Wow, thank you so much. And this is another question from another listener as well. This is something that he's been really pondering about. And he says, when our beliefs are fixed, when our abilities and beliefs are fixed, whether we think they're natural or they're just built for a certain domain, we avoid challenge and lose interest when things get hard, like now what is happening. He has a business. The business is now closed because of COVID-19, and he doesn't know what is going to happen. And this business was recently open. Now, seeing all of what is happening, don't know what the next 3 months will be for him. He's had this great mindset of what his business would be like in the next 6 months because he had seen tremendous growth. Now, he's now seeing this as a setback because his abilities were fixed. But because of hard times, because of unforeseen situations that we have no control over, he's now saying, like, how can I move past this? Like, what advice would you give to him?
Okay. I'm going to illustrate this one. Okay. Here. Okay. I got some fruit here. Yeah. I have an apple
Mm-hmm.
and I have avocado. I love avocado.
Oh, really good.
And I have a lemon here too.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when we talk about like a fixed mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? So fixed mindset might be the apple here saying like, oh, apple's like, I have to be an avocado because avocado is the thing that Nicole likes the best. I got to be an avocado. But one of the things that Apple doesn't recognize is I like Apple. Like I don't love Apple the same way I love avocado, but I like Apple in a different type of season, different way in which I like avocado because they're different. And so one of the things that I say about fixed mindset is fixed mindset says that I believe that I have to be a certain way in order to be successful. And you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be a certain way. You don't have to have things follow the exact plan all the time. You have to be open to a little bit of flexibility or a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what it also says as a fixed mindset is you think that the situation won't change. And so here's what's really amazing too, right? So the same apple, right? If I cut this apple open, like there's a little seed inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I showed someone the seed and I asked what was it, unless you're someone who knows like what all sorts of seeds are, you might just
Yes.
commonly say a seed or I don't know, right? But but nobody when they first saw the first seed could say like, oh, it's going to turn into this,
No.
and the seed didn't turn into this automatically. The first thing it did is it had to go down in that dirt, just like your earlier listener said, right? Had to be a
Yeah.
little bit pressure. Had to go down to the dirt for a little while. And then when the seed started to grow, it still didn't look like this.
Mm-hmm.
Looked like a little seed, right? And then as the seedling started to grow, still didn't look like this. It
Mm-hmm.
looked like a tree. But there had to have been something so innate that was already built within that seed, that you're destined for something bigger, something greater. But if the seed or the person who I first showed the seed to always thought, oh, it's always just going to be this little seed, I would
Mm-hmm.
have never had this wonderful apple to eat and
Yeah.
appreciate the apple for all the goodness and the variety that the apple has, right? And so what I would say is that life does happen. Absolutely. There are like lots of changes and challenges that are happening in the world right now because of COVID-19. And so I'm not giving you this like willy-nilly thing like, oh, everything's going to be all right. It's wonderful. It's like seeds and things. It's
Mm-hmm.
not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is like whatever season that you're in right now, right? So whether I have an apple, whether I have my avocado, or whether I have my lemon right now,
Mm-hmm.
they're all able to give me some type of nutrition. All of them. There's
Yeah.
something for me to learn, something for me to gain from this lemon, something for me to gain from this avocado.
Mm-hmm.
There's something for me to gain from this apple. They're different. They're really, really different. And so there might be a season right now where it's not the season that you want to be in. Don't lose that faith. Don't lose that dream of what it is that you want, but don't get stuck there, and see what is it that you can gain and learn from this season right now. It might be a season where you're able to connect more with your family or your friends, or to research other business options, or to look at a business that's going to be like online and more profitable. There's so many other things that could be happening, but you have to be open to it and open to what this moment and what this particular thing brings, because it's not always what we want. It's not always our first preference, but there is some type of nutritional value in it, some type of value. That's what I would say.
Wow, I love the illustration. Powerful. Thank you so much. Now,
Yeah.
moving on to my next question. How have you taken control over the things you believe about yourself, and how have it shaped who you are today?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. So look at it from a couple of different standpoints.
Yes.
I'll look at it from the standpoint of society, like what has society said I'm supposed to be. I'll
Mhm.
look at it from the standpoint of family, because even like within our families, we hear certain things where we should be certain ways, and we feel like family should be a certain way. I'll do it from the standpoint of economy, and
Mhm.
then I'll say it also from the standpoint of career. Like I'll end there. Okay.
Okay.
So starting from like the standpoint of society, right? So one of the things that I learned from a very, very early age, I grew up in Wisconsin. Ooh, I love, 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 love Wisconsin. But when I grew up in Wisconsin, I was a minority there in Wisconsin. It's the area that I lived in. I grew up in Janesville, Wisconsin. Shout out to Janesville, love Janesville, Wisconsin. But it's primarily a Caucasian area. And I
Mhm.
remember being in elementary school, and I was maybe in like the first grade outside playing on the playground with my friends, and a little boy came up to me, and I remember him pulling my hair on the playground. I turned around, and he was like, "Are you black?" And no one had ever asked me in my life if I was black. Even though I was in first grade, like no one asked me this,
Mhm.
and I didn't know. Like I knew I was Nikeo, I knew I was a girl,
Mhm.
I knew like my address, I knew these different types of things, but I didn't know if I was black. But before I could even answer, the little girl who I was playing with, she said, "Can't you see? She's not black, she's brown." And so the little boy seemed satisfied with his answer, so he went away. But all day I thought about that question that he asked me. And so I went home and I asked my mom, I was like, "Mom, am I black?" And I remember my mom laughing at me. But she asked why I wanted to know if I was black, and I told her about what happened on the playground. And I remember her telling me as like a little girl, like, it doesn't matter what anybody says about black people. She's like, "I want you to know," she was like, "there's nothing wrong with being black." So I
Mhm.
went to school the next day. I was actually excited because I discovered that my friend was wrong. I'm not brown, I'm black. And
Yeah.
I was going to tell my friend, like, I was like, "Guess what? I told my mom. My mom said, actually, I am black. I'm not brown." And I remember my friend's expression. And she was like, "Oh," she was like, "I can't be your friend then, because my parents said that we can't be friends with black people. Black people aren't nice people." And I remember, like, as a young girl in first grade, having that moment of like, Black people aren't nice people. What? And how did that shape me? And really just discovering that like I'm so much more than just the color of my skin, and not letting that define what society says, that people who look a certain way are like this, right? So that's one of the things that I felt like changed my mindset. But we are influenced sometimes by what society says about what a certain thing looks like, and this must be what it's like. And so that's one thing that I understood about myself, but not till I got older. Like I struggled with some identity issues and stuff for a while, but being Black doesn't define who I am, and Black people can be nice people too. So that's the first thing I would say when I think about society. The next thing I would say is when I think about family. So when you grow up, usually like when you look at like storybooks and different things like that, you always have like the mom and the dad and happy family and the brothers and sisters. And that wasn't my family story. I didn't know my dad growing up. And that was something that was very challenging for me, something that was really, really heart-wrenching for me. And for me, I felt like I dealt with like a lot of struggles of like, oh, why isn't my dad around? Why didn't he love me? I know my biological dad now. We have like awesome relationship. Like I really, really love it. The power of God, it's been amazing. But I really wrestled with that, like why am I not loved? How come I don't have like the picture perfect family? And so one of the things that I learned though is that the scenario that I grew up in, that's exactly what I needed and what shaped me into who I am today. And so what I learned from that is you can't let what people say a family is supposed to be like define you, but you were placed in the family that you were placed in for a reason, because it's crafted something that's created who you are today. It's part of what you need. So that's first, the next thing I would say about family. The third example that I would give you would be about the economy. So I switched careers. So I work in the education field now, but I used to work in information technology, and I worked in corporate America. And so switching from corporate America to education was a huge financial shift, like a huge lifestyle shift. It was just a lot. It was a lot of change. But one of the things when I did that, like I discovered so many things about myself during that moment. Like one, because I ended up like moving back home with my mother for a while, which was, for me, it was just this thing of like, oh my goodness, like, and then this is interesting too, because culturally, like in some places it's okay for like the children to live with the families, but in America, like you're supposed to be independent, you're on your own, these things like that. I really felt like a failure, like, oh, I'm back home with my mom, oh man, like, oh, until I like kind of get myself together financially and stuff, because it was a big switch. But then not only that, as far as like, I felt like I recognized I had like a lot of mindsets about what the economy says I had to be. Like I remember traveling to one of my good friends, like a baby shower, right? So when I went to her baby shower, I was no longer working in like corporate America, but I took a bus. I went all the way from Atlanta, Georgia to like Washington, D.C. And I just remember feeling like, I can't believe I'm riding a Greyhound to like get to this girl's baby shower. And like, you know, like my friends are like lawyers and doctors, and like they have like very, like I guess you could say like significant jobs. But I remember being at the baby shower, and as people walked around and like I would revisit with old friends and meet new people and different people in the network, like I remember like it's always the question of like, oh, what do you do? And I would be like, oh, well right now, you know, I'm teaching, I'm an educator, but I used to. And I always had to be like, but I used to, like it made me more valuable or something. And that was something that I really had to level set and come to grips with, that the amount of money that I make does not define me. The job that I have does not define who I am. Like I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. I love working with kids. I love inspiring people. I love writing. Like I love what proud to say that. But there was a season where I wasn't, and I had to come to grips with it. Like I always felt like I was less. Yeah. And so I had to go through that season, because otherwise I couldn't talk to you about it right now. But not being defined by the economy. And then that's the same thing, economy and career. Like I kind of put those together when I talked about like my bus trip and stuff. But those are the lessons that I've learned personally about not letting, like taking control over the things that I used to believe. And what do I believe now about who I am? And like I said, I feel like I'm chosen, I'm fearfully and I'm wonderfully made. And that's who I am. All this other stuff, society, family, how I grew up, my economy, my career, none of that defines who I am though. So even if it changes, because it will, life changes. So yeah.
You are. Wow, that's powerful. And you did not allow any of these things to hinder you. And look at you today. So, for many
Yeah.
of us who are affected by the economy, our career, our families, we just have to keep focus and know exactly what is it that we want. And it doesn't matter what anyone says to us or says about us. If we know this is the direction that I need to take, just continue. Keep running. You'll get there one day.
Keep
Wonderful.
going. Keep moving forward, like my mama
Continue.
said.
Wonderful. And now to conclude this episode, Miss Nikeo, I want to ask you this question to encourage my listeners. What are some things that you would encourage them now? Many of the people who are listening to us, they are people who they don't know what will happen to them tomorrow. Many are homeless. Many have
Mhm.
lost their jobs. Many are thinking about suicide at this time. Many are demotivated. What are some of the things that you will say right now to them to instill a growth mindset?
Yeah, the thing that I would say to you right now to instill the growth mindset, as we kind of conclude today, I'm actually going to go back and like rewrap like some of the different points that I made, right? And then I'm going to try to tie it back together, like what you said about belief, right? So, first thing I would say is have your bold blueprint. Be bold. Be like really, really bold in whatever it is that you believe. Even like with, like you said, Shauna-Kay, there's job loss right now. There's like sadness. There's so much going on. There's sickness right now. But still believe, like within yourself, within your blueprint, that this fog isn't going to last forever. Keep that
No.
blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The next thing I would say is be effective. Be effective in the season that you're in right now. Don't let this be a time to where you're just like, oh, I'm just going to sit around in a hole and I'm going to wait until everything changes. Like, no, be effective in like whatever it is that you're doing. Like, do something positive like every day that impacts yourself or impacts somebody else. So again, whether it's who you're connecting with, what you're reading, what you're writing, doesn't matter. But be effective in what you're doing. Make your time worthwhile. Time is like the one thing that you can never get back. You can never ever get it back. So be effective in what you're doing in this season. Next thing I would say is take your limits off. Your limits. Take them off. Take the limits off. Okay. Have insight. Get insights from other people. Have that circle of like people, like who are you connecting yourself to or whatever. Have different ideas, right? Be excellent. Be excellent in whatever it is that you're doing. So like I said, the effective part, like be effective, but then be excellent in what you're doing too. Do it to the best of your ability. It's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as a matter of fact. He said that if you can't be a bush, you need to be a tree.
Yeah,
And if you
I
can't be
agree.
a highway, then you need to be a trail.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't be the sun, then be a star. And it's not about your size, it's not about how big or small you are, but just be the best at like whatever you are. And so that is just like so huge. Like walk in excellence. Whatever it is you're doing, do it excellently, and you will get noticed for your excellence. Your gift will make room for you. And the last thing, I'm gonna go back to it, I'm gonna keep on saying it, is faith. Walk in faith. It's that connection between the unseen and the seen. So if you have your blueprint, that's your B. You be effective. E. Take the limits off. L. I. Your insights. E. Walk in excellence. And F. Faith. And that's your belief. That's the power of belief right there, Shauna-Kay.
Can you say that again for us? Belief.
Yeah. B. Have a bold blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
E. Be effective in whatever you're doing. L. Take the limits off. No boundaries. Think above and beyond. I. Insight. Get good advice from wise counselors. E. Walk in excellence. And then F. Walk by faith. That's belief. That's how you have belief.
Awesome, awesome. There you heard it from Nikayo Cable, from Nikayo Kobo, someone who have experienced so many different things in life, but never gave up on her belief. Someone who was bold, someone who walked in the spirit of excellence, and here she is today to encourage you. So it doesn't matter what you are facing today, belief. Get that dirt off your dreams, running
Yeah.
after, keep on running after your dreams, because one day your dreams will come to pass, but only if you believe, and if only you are faithful, you remain faithful, and you're not fearful of anything around you. Do not let anything hinder you today, because every person who is famous today, they went through hard cracks to be where they are. So you who are sitting down, where whatever you're doing today, just remember to believe, to have faith, and to be ready too. Because if you have a dream and you're not ready, then that dream will not be perfected. So first, be ready, be at peace, be faithful, be bold, be excellent, and your reward will be great. Wow, what a powerful episode. What a wonderful time with you, Miss Nikeo. Thank you
Yes,
so
thank you so
much.
much for the
Thank you
invite.
so much for joining us today on Shauna-Kay's Motivational Breeze. And I also want to thank you, my listeners, for supporting me continuously, for helping me believing in myself, and also making my dream a reality of being a talk show host and a motivational speaker. Thank you so much for your support. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to Shauna-Kay's Motivational Breeze. It was wonderful being with you today. God bless you. See you soon. Thank you.